Welcome to the Golfish podcast. I'm your host, Amy Goodman. We're changing things up for the rest of spring and summer and moving the podcast to release every other week. As always, we will continue to bring you fascinating interviews with the people behind the players of the PGA, LPGA, Champions Tour, and beyond. Don't forget to rate or leave a review and tell us how we're doing.
You've probably heard the hype, but have you ever actually considered incorporating CBD into your golf routine? If so, we're confident that our sponsors over at Joint Caddie will make you a CBD believer. Their signature roll-on freeze gel is perfect for any golfer who experiences aches, pains, or soreness on the course, and it comes in a no-mess applicator that eliminates any chance of greasy hands affecting your grip. Plus, it fits perfectly in your golf bag. They also carry their own blend of sublingual drops that will help you relax, or as they like to say, nip the yips. They're great for sleep too. All of Joint Caddie's products are all natural and free of any solvents, sweeteners, or preservatives. They even have the third-party test results listed right on their website. So head to jointcaddie.com and see what all the hype's about. And while you're there, use promo code Golfish JC20 to take 20% off any order.
This week, we're joined by Kessler Karain. You'll know Kessler as Patrick Reed's caddy, but to be clear, we don't get into the drama surrounding Patrick or his game. Kessler and I had a great conversation that went on for almost 2 hours, with his girlfriend Keith chiming in and keeping him in check. If you've wanted to know his thoughts on why gardening is manly, why you should always stop to save an animal, and what it takes to become a top caddy without extensive experience, then this episode's for you. Let's get started. Kessler, Amy from the Golfish podcast. How are you?
Doing good, Amy. Put it on speaker. All right. I'm pretty good.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, hear you fine.
Right.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So thank you so much for joining me today. Super excited to chat with you. I know it's been a little bit of a change over the past few weeks for you. So where are you calling from?
Houston, Texas, specifically in the Woodlands area. So just technically like kind of North Houston.
So you are home and have been home for a few weeks now. And unfortunately, it sounds like maybe home for a few more weeks to come with everything that is going on with the pause in sports. Is that right?
Yep.
We will be back to golf hopefully before you know it, though. I'm sure it's much harder on you than it is the spectators, but we're all definitely thinking about the caddies and the coaches and the players. So I'd love to get started with how you got started in golf and kind of what your connection is to the golf world. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got connected into the PGA.
Well, mine's kind of a not typical story, I guess. So I went to college. I grew up, I played a little golf in high school, but was never really any good. I mean, I pretty much just for fun. And then went to college, did my thing there, graduated from UTSA, business management. I was working at my graduation. Actually, I met Patrick. He was dating my sister Justine at the time. So that was actually when I first met him, was in 2011 at my UTSA graduation. And so, hung out, whatever, he's cool. And then, went out and played, like I was playing a lot of pool back then. So went out, played pool with him. He was pretty good at it. I was like, all right, guy's cool by me. And, and then a couple years later, like Justine caddied for him and all that. Mm-hmm. And I was just working in San Antonio doing medical device sales. And I remember, she got pregnant and I just assumed that he was, she was going to do that. He was going to get a caddy or whatever. And just, life continues. And then I get a call. I was sitting at my desk at Medtronic. And, he's like, hey, I kind of need a caddy. And I was thinking you could do it for, it's going to be temporary at first, probably like 6 months to a year. And I was thinking, I was just kind of getting my career started in that world of medical devices. And I kind of said, well, if you're serious, I'll quit my job in about 5-10 minutes. And he goes, okay. He's like, do it. And so I was like, all right. So I hung up the phone, pretty much stopped working.
That's
and,
crazy.
Typed up my 2 weeks and handed it to my boss. And he goes, he thought I was going to a competitor company. And then I said, no, I'm going to go caddy. And he was like at a club. And I go, no, like my brother-in-law on the PGA Tour plays. And so I'm just going to go work for him. And he was like, he thought I was messing with him, but he didn't believe me. And I go, no, that's what's going to happen.
This is real life.
So I worked my 2 weeks out, and it was funny because I remember right after I did it, I sat down, I talked to my buddy Ray Caselli, and I was like, hey man, I'm kind of doing this, and you think it's a smart move? And he looked at me, and he's like, Kessler, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, if you don't do it, I'm going to go do it. So I was like, all right. And then sure enough, like, here I am almost 7 years later.
That's crazy.
Everything that's happened. So yeah, my story's not as typical as a lot, there's a lot of caddies out there that were really good players. And I guess, they all kind of grow up playing with each other. And then some of those guys end up trying to make it out on tour and don't, but then they become some of the best caddies out there, hands down.
Right. So what was that transition like? I mean, that is a pretty major transition. Recent grad of college, like a few years out. Justine's been caddying. I can't imagine coming in behind your sister as a caddy, because I'm sure she was like, the first couple of tournaments was like, what are you doing out there? Like, do you know what you're doing?
Yeah, well, no, I didn't know anything. I probably didn't really know much for a long time, but, I think it was all kind of meant to be, and there was a huge learning curve, and I feel like I adapted to situations pretty quick. And a lot of that first year with me was just kind of keeping him cool and keeping him, trusting his instincts, like my second week, we ended up winning the Humana. He shot 63, 63, 63 the first 3 days, which I don't know if anyone's done that to this day. And so like we won by 5 strokes or some crazy, it was basically you walking down 18 and even 17 knowing like this thing's in the bag. So my second week on the bag, we basically snag a win, which is funny because Austin Johnson, I believe he worked somewhere and then he went and worked HSBC China, the World Golf Championship. And I think that was his second week. And so he won his second week on the bag for DJ. So it's kind of funny thing, like, as brothers, like we both really had a pretty easy going start as a caddy. And honestly, back then, I wish I realized couldn't grasp exactly what was really happening in that moment. And now looking back at it, it's pretty cool to think about.
Oh, absolutely.
And that first year was just a huge learning curve. And like, I learned a lot, and then I just continue. Like, I still learn a lot of things to this day. 7 years later, I'm still, something new happens probably every week that I figure something out.
When you were learning, especially in those first couple of years, I mean, were you getting advice from other caddies, or was Patrick mainly the one like showing you the ropes of how to be a caddy and what his expectations were?
Well, I mean, probably everybody. Like, I've always kind of been, keep like, especially in those situations, because I don't feel, for the first couple of years, I felt like kind of I guess you would say like imposter syndrome. Like, I had a lot of I already had more wins than some of these caddies, but I knew I was like, but these caddies are really good at what they do. So I still just kind of I tried to, stay humble and all those things and keep my mouth shut and my ears open. And you'd be surprised how much you can learn if you just kind of go with that motto. And then of course, Patrick, just watch, he's such his golf intellect is so high, or his golf IQ is so through the roof, that like just by being with him, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, 35, 36 weeks a year, if you don't sit there and learn a lot about golf, then I just see it as being impossible. You could stick a 5-year-old next to him for that much time, and that 5-year-old probably a golf genius. Yeah,
you're doing something wrong if you're not learning something from him.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously he's one of the best players in the world. So I did, most of it I did learn from him. And, but then also, like I said, I just kept my ears open, and there's a couple other caddies that have kind of shown me some things over the years. Like my buddy Brett Waldman definitely has given me some good advice. Lance Bennett, like early on, like those first two team events. I think in Korea I caddied with him when he was caddying for Cooch, and he would say a couple things, and some of them, a lot of things stick whenever you listen to that. And then just whenever you're walking the course, if you walk the course with other caddies, like they kind of point things out that you're like, oh, I never even thought about that before, and now you know it. So
yeah, absolutely.
And I retain that information pretty well once I'm there. And I see it and I hear it and I'm like, oh, okay, so that's how that goes. And then you just throw that in the bank.
When you are, so I assume you may not have to do this as much actually now, like 7 years in, but especially when you were starting, when you would walk the greens, I mean, did you just primarily use like the yardage books and the green books and walk with other caddies when you were doing that? Or did you, like, where was your knowledge gain from being able to read greens? Because they show that a lot on TV, is you getting really into green reading with Patrick.
Yeah, so I don't use the greens books at all.
Okay.
I'm like more of just, I like all feel. They're good for, like, he basically holds the green book. I don't want to see it. That's all for him. And then it's kind of like a checks and balance system, because he's a really, like, honestly, when he doesn't have that green book, I feel like he putts extremely well, because he's going with his instinct. Just like that 63, 63, 63. Like, I literally have not much to do with that win, except for the fact that if maybe another caddy was there and they were trying to tell him to do something, they might have like kind of derailed the whole deal. So it was like kind of meant to be. But same thing with like the putting. Like, I just let him look at it, and then he calls me in and I tell him what I see. Okay. And whatever I see is what I see. And then if he sees, like, for instance, that book can be wrong, especially depending on if the dot isn't perfect, or if they didn't put the hole where the pin sheet says it is. Like, if it's off by a yard, then the whole read is done, and that's where you have to go with feel.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
I feel like reading greens is just kind of a natural knack for me. And I get low because I feel like I can see things that maybe you wouldn't see. That's the difference between, a left center putt and a right center putt. Because sometimes when they're super flat like that, it could be like left center, it's going to lip out left. But if you see it and you see it, oh, it's a right center putt, goes dead in the heart, great. So as far as prep work goes, I pretty much don't ever really, I just want to know where not to be. So when we're practicing, I'm just looking at spots like, don't go there and don't go there.
Okay.
And then when we get in a situation, that's in the back of my head. Like, in my book, there's an X, like, don't go there. So, if Long's dead and we have we're kind of in between clubs, I'm going to choose the club that takes Long out of play all day. Even if he's 30 feet short of the pin and he might get upset about that, I'd rather be 30 short of the pin on the green than 10 feet past, short-sighted, green running away from you. And even though he has such a ridiculous short game that he could break out of jail out of that, you don't want to have that stress, like, you just want to try and have as many stress-free pars and birdies as you can.
Yeah.
And keep those to a minimum. So yeah, as far as prep work goes, I mean, mostly he practices a lot. Even like he wants, like, some guys, they take Mondays off, and that's when you'll see other caddies out there walking the course.
Yep.
But he's gonna play Monday, so I'm gonna see the course Monday, and that's when we get our work done. And if I'm not too familiar with the place, or if it's a brand new course, I'll usually on my own after on Monday or Tuesday I'll go walk 18 holes, and you can make pretty quick work if you know what you're looking for.
Yeah. Some
courses are more straightforward than others too. Like, some you walk it once and you can walk it in 2 hours time and pretty much know everything you need to know.
So when you say he practices every Monday, is he playing a full 18? Like, do you play a full 18 through, or do you,
no,
what does that look like?
It's usually about 9. They're usually 9 holers, or, and it's not, I would mostly say most Mondays are going to be practice days where we see the course. Every now and then, if we want a 5-week run, he might take, out of that 5-week run, we might have 2 days off where we don't go see the course. So, But other than that, it's just business as usual, fly in Sunday night, like get done with one tournament Sunday, fly in Sunday night, Monday, early, like late morning, pop on the course, go see, play 9 holes, work on whatever we thought we could do better from the previous week. And it's just, Groundhog Day, like just next week, next tournament, trying to win.
When you're talking about, I mean, like, it literally does feel like Groundhog Day. The more I talk to people, the more I'm like, wow, how do you keep up with that? I mean, 35 to 36 weeks a year to travel for someone as successful as Reed is a lot of tournaments. Why do you guys choose to play in so many tournaments?
Well, some of it is choice and some of it isn't, just because he has the European Tour card. So there's things that we have to do to fulfill those duties as well for that card.
Yeah.
So like we have to play, like you get the World Golf Championships and then you get the majors. That's 8. And so those count towards your European Tour card, but then you got to play another 4 to 5 outside of those to keep that card and go to Race to Dubai. And I think Race to Dubai does count as one of those. So you got to pick up 3 tournaments internationally, so we're going to Europe or somewhere else, all in the meantime while the PGA Tour stuff is going on. And, and he likes to play and he likes to go on, like he likes runs. He doesn't want to go 1 week on, 1 week off, 1 week on, 2 weeks on, 1 week off. He just doesn't, that's just not how he operates. And, it's like I said, I mean, I respect the grind, and sometimes, we've gone 9 weeks in a row.
Oh, like that's a lot.
Yeah. And before that 9 weeks, we had 4 weeks and like 3 days. So I remember there, like, imagine what 9, 4, that's 13 weeks. So in a 13-week span of time, I did the math. I was home for like 4 days.
Crazy.
And that was just a year where, yeah, we kind of had some struggle. And then of course, like you get a win and you're like, oh, okay, cool. But he's just trying to nickel and dime because he has his goals. And like, usually our biggest goal are to make the team events. And like, if he has to play 9 in a row, and, even though like some of those courses don't suit him, but if we could knock out like a T20 or better, we're going to take those points and we're going to put that on. And we're like I said, we'll nickel and dime everyone to, if it means being on the bubble and getting that 8th spot, that's what he'll do. And so you can't do anything but respect that. And yeah, so like at the end of that 9th week, our 9th week that year was Quail Hollow PGA. And we finished like tied for second with Hideki Matsuyama, which kind of sealed the deal for President's Cup that year. So at Liberty National. And so I was pretty, but after that, I mean, we had 1 week off and then we were like right into playoffs.
That's I just can't imagine that schedule. Yeah. It's, I was talking to Jose Compra earlier today, and he was so funny, but he was talking about how, like, in Argentina and South America in general, like, they do not travel for work. Like, they work where they live, right? And in the US, he's like, it's super normal, but it's super normal for like 2 to 3 days. Like, I can't imagine anyone that travels for work listening to you just say you were literally on the road for 4 weeks, home for 3 to 4 days, and on the road for 9 weeks. And anyone understand the type of grind that goes into that as a caddy or a player, because I feel like everyone is just like, oh, it's so glamorous. They're making all this money. They have all these sponsors. And it's like, they haven't seen their house in 9 weeks. Like, that is a crazy thing to experience.
And I don't even know what 63 days. So that's 63 days. And out of those 63 days, realistically, like, you're carrying a bag and you're working. For me, it was probably like 59 days. And then like, okay, so you have 4 days. So that's 63 days. There's 4 days off. Well, it's not even 4 days off, because sometimes 2 of those days were you just straight traveling. Right. So you're in an airport. So it's not like you're just sitting around doing nothing. Like, no, you're like, oh, this whole day is being dedicated to getting to the next stop. And so, that's not even a day off. That's just like, oh, I don't see the golf course today.
Right.
So then, like, realistically, that's, you work 62 days or 61 days pretty much straight with 2 days off. Like that, I remember thinking like, and it was funny because it's Quail Hollow. It was hotter than hell out there.
Oh God. We've gone once to Quail Hollow, and it was so hot. So hot in August. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, and it was PGA. It was just hot. I mean, it's like Houston. I'm in Houston in August, and people dying.
Yes.
So, and I remember dunking my head in the coolers, and it was great. It was the best thing I ever could do on like right before a hole, because it would keep me cold for about a hole. It was awesome. And but I remember that was like my 9th week in a row, right? And I'm on the putting green. I think it's the final day. Austin Johnson, DJ, it's his 4th week in a row, and he's walking up, and he said something along like, "Man, this 4th week," he's like, "I'm glad I'm gonna be over." And I'm looking at him, and he looks, and he sees me and I'm looking at him. I'm like, "Yeah, really?" And he knows that I'm on my like 9th week, and he just started we just started laughing. I was like, "Yep." I was like, "Don't even get at me with this 4th week in a row shit, dude." So,
but now
it was a funny moment.
Now you're potentially looking at like 9 weeks off, and does that feel like a punishment? Like, is that weird?
Not at all. Not for me. Like, I know a lot of guys right now are probably like, "Man, this sucks." But for me, I'm kind of like, I've never had this much time. I feel like I'm on summer break as like a high school kid. Like, the last time I had this much time off, I literally was about like, it was my last summer before college. And I was like, okay, I got nothing to do.
I mean, and you're showing us on your Instagram all of your house projects that you're doing and all the things that you're doing. It sounds like your workouts are going great. So it sounds like you're filling your time very well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm making the most of it. I'm still playing some golf, and I'm getting all my home honeydew husband stuff done. Saved a turtle like 2 days ago.
I saw that. Okay, we have to talk about that now that you've said that.
Yeah,
because that's crazy.
So my girlfriend Keith, and yeah, her name is Keith. She was driving over, and I live near a retention pond, and they have like a 1 mile track. And whenever it rains heavy, sometimes it drains really quick. So the turtles, when it rains really heavy, it gets filled with water really quick, and then it brings a lot of turtles in. But then it drains super quick, and then the turtles are sitting here on land. So then they're like, "Shit, I got to go find water."
Yeah.
Well, they always end up in the street, and there's a curb, and they can't. And like, once they get on the street, they can't get over. Like, there's really no way for them to get over the curb and get back to wherever they're trying to go. So, so we pick up a lot of turtles, and we take them down to probably where they came from. But on this occasion, this turtle had a huge hook, like just, right through its mouth and through its nose. So it came around, and right now they're in the woodlands. A lot of people do a lot of bass fishing.
Okay.
And
that's a really big hook for bass, or at least it seems like it to me.
And that's exactly what I said to her. I go, "Who the hell is bass fishing with this hook?" And I'm not a big fish. Like, I see people fish because in the woodlands, we have tons of ponds with bass like all over the place. So you see a lot of kids fishing, and it's awesome.
That is not a kid's fisher. That's not a kid's fish hook.
Yeah, well, see, and I know that because I just bought my friend's son was over, and we were looking for stuff for him to do because he's bored. He's no school, no nothing. So I was like, let's go get him a fishing pole. And like, you see all the hooks they have, and you see and I saw what they said. Oh, this one you can get bass up to X amount of pounds.
Yeah.
So I see this hook, and I'm like, who the hell is fishing with this huge hook for bass? I go, this thing is ridiculous. And so I was like, anyway, so she brings it, and like, I'm trying to do everything I can to try and pull this thing out, and it's just not happening. Like, there's no way I could have done it without hurting it.
Yeah.
So it's raining in Houston. It's pouring. Yeah, it's Saturday, and we called the SPCA of Houston, which they're located downtown. It's about a 50-minute drive, and they say we close in basically an hour and 15 minutes. So I said we'll be there like in the nick of time. Drive 50 minutes later, and we drop it off, not knowing like what's going to happen.
Right.
They have, and I love the fact that they like right where they have something drop off, they have like three little stations where you could donate like, money towards the cause. And so of course, like I gave, it's like, I'm just happy that they took this turtle from me because I don't know what to do with it. So, you give them a donation, and then you hand it, and you really don't know what's going to happen to it. You hope the best. And then I saw, my girlfriend Keith sent me the post, and she was like, "That's the turtle." And so they posted, a Good Samaritan brought in the turtle, and luckily we got it out, and she'll be good to go in no time. And it's one of the most rewarding things. I know to some people it's just a turtle, but for me, I pick up turtles all the time and take them back where they need to go. And to see something like it can't eat that way. Like, it's going to be it's going to be one of the most miserable deaths. Like, it's like me sewing your mouth shut and saying, all right, later, dude.
Best of luck. Yep.
Like,
exactly.
I don't care what it is. I'll feel bad for it. So we're super happy that happened and that we got to see that she's okay and that she'll be back to a pond in no time. She basically is probably going to be in a pond in Memorial Park downtown in Houston, hopefully on that golf course.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I saw that and I was like, something's off here. Like, what kind of fishing do they have in Texas?
Yeah, I almost like, I know there's like a park ranger type, like wildlife person that kind of, I saw him drive by my house when I was working out in that garage gym. And if I see him again, I'm going to ask him like, hey, do you check people's hooks? Because I don't care. Like, I see people fishing all the time, but I'm almost like, I run around that retention pond and you see like off the side where people are fishing. And I almost want to walk up and be like, I want to see your hooks because I'm the guy who had to drive an hour in the fucking rain. Right. Like, it's pouring. It was literally pouring. Like, I was hydroplaning. I was like, I'm going to die trying to get this turtle, some type of help. And, someone were to get mad at me for asking what kind of hook they're using, I'd be like, I'm the guy who had to drive an hour to save a turtle because someone, not you, but someone's using bad hooks over here. Like, you could catch me with that damn hook.
Yeah, that's true. It is true. Well, I'm very thankful. I'm an animal lover, so I appreciate that. When Rich, my husband, was buying a car, it's been like 3 or 4 years, they let us just do the test drive by ourselves. And we came back like 45 minutes later and they're like, where have you been? And I was like, well, I mean, I'm in a suit because at the time I worked in suits and it's raining because, apparently that's when you save animals is when it's raining. So you and I have that in common.
Yeah. But
there were geese and there were their little ducklings they couldn't get over the curb. So we stopped, this random woman and I stopped 4 lanes of traffic on a decently busy street by us to help these goslings, I guess they're called goslings, get over these curbs as these geese were squawking at us and yelling at us. And I'm like, you can't see that and think like anyone else is going to do it because that some jerk's going to have a bad day after work and just plow through those birds, or someone is going to continue to use those hooks and see that and be like, well, not my problem, so I'm very thankful that you did that. I think that's incredible.
Yeah. I appreciate that. And like I said, I know exactly how you feel. If you see something you got to do, like I picked up like a dog the other day. It was probably like 2 weeks ago. I was actually going over to Patrick's house to work out with him. And there's a dog just walking around. And I was like, okay, well, whose dog is this? And so I get out and it's right in front of his house. And I like dog's super friendly. Like it jumped in my truck almost right away. But then like the person walking, I go, is this your dog? No. And then someone drives by. He goes, hey, I saw that dog around earlier, like an hour ago. I'm like, well, then why didn't you grab him?
Right.
Like, you saw him. Dude, that's what I get more mad at the people like that than the people who actually lose the dog. Mm-hmm. And the person that lost the dog was super happy. Like, luckily there was a phone number on the collar. There's so many times where Keith and I have found dogs before, and like there's no collar,
right.
there is a collar but no tag. You're like, okay, no chip. I mean, I've literally like spent hours trying to, and I'm like, this could have all been. And then of course you find the owners, and you want to tell them like, hey, put a tag on your dog,
mm-hmm. right?
So that I didn't have to waste literally 6 hours of my day trying
right.
to figure out where you are.
Right.
But you're so happy to see them happy that you don't want to be that. You don't want to be mean to them about it or come off as mean. But
you're welcome. Say, hey, but next time this could be easier.
Yeah, they make tags for like $3.
Right.
Over at Petco. Just saying.
And you would know because you are the proud. I believe you have three dogs.
Well, 2 now. We put one down about 2. Almost 3 months ago.
So sorry to hear
but
that.
2, yeah. So we got 2. We got. They're all Yorkies, and we got one. She's like 13. She's a trooper. She went through like 20 weeks of chemo.
Oh my gosh.
And she finished up like 5 months ago now, and so her hair's back. She looks great. And then we got this little dude. He's like 3. His name is Gus, and he's just a madman.
That's funny. Yeah, we have a 10-year-old Yorkie, so I sympathize. He's just now starting to I want to say like maybe within the past year he grew out of his puppy phase. I was convinced it was never going to happen. I was like, I don't really understand.
It's funny how much energy they got.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I've heard since I got him that he was prepping me for children because he was on a very like, he wanted to be fed at like 4:30 or 5 in the morning. And I'm like, dude, no one has to get up at this time. Like literally no one. Like, I don't know what your problem is. Go to bed.
Yeah.
Doesn't work very often.
How soon they do figure out eventually, like, all right, they're not waking up.
Yeah.
And, because he was like that too. Like if you even made a move at 5 a.m. when he like that first year,
yes.
He's like on you.
Yep.
Like he's jumping. Like, oh, you're ready, and you're like, no.
Like no, I'm not. Exactly.
Like, yeah.
Do yours sleep under the covers? Mine loves to like burrow under the covers and then comes out and he's like 1,000 degrees. And he's panting.
Yeah, so one of them, the girl, Isabel, the 13-year-old, she's like very much so under the covers, but she won't sleep with me. She only sleeps with her mom.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, she doesn't. As far as sleeping goes, like she may sleep near my head, and that's about as good as it gets for me. But Gus, he sleeps wherever he wants, and like he spreads out. I've never seen like a 16-pound dog take up so much space on a king-size bed before.
Right.
So I can't even imagine like some of those bigger dogs, like, a lab, like if you let them sleep in your bed, like how much, if they wanted to sprawl out, like you're like, oh, okay. So there's no room.
There's no room. So I'll go sleep on the couch. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Kingston's like 8 or 9 pounds. And every time, like, I'm just like, how do you expand? I don't get it. Like you take up so much space. You're so hot. You're like 8 or 9 pounds. Like just compact yourself a little bit. But I mean, it's like straight, stretch out all the legs and move around all night long. And oh yeah, must just be a Yorkie thing.
Yeah, seriously. They got to be bigger than what they are.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Like little man syndrome.
Yes, he has that hardcore.
Yeah.
So back to golf. What are some of the toughest calls, like, or have you had to make like really tough calls where, like Bones had like one veto card? Like if you had to have a call where you're like, Reed, man, like you're calling it wrong, or is it just kind of like, well, he's the player and I just like let him do his thing?
Obviously, ultimately, at the end of the day, he's swinging the club, so it's his ultimate decision. But there's a lot of times where at least he listens pretty well if I really don't like something. And also, that's one thing, I guess, maybe that's why Patrick and I have had as much success as we've had, is that we're both pretty comfortable with telling each other, like, no, this ain't it. Like, sometimes I've read a putt and he's like, yeah, that's dead wrong. And I'm like, cool, I'm out of here. And, there's times where I'm like, yeah, dude, it's not left edge, it's right edge. So there's a lot of times, like, I feel like on putting, like, I'll just tell him exactly what I see. And even if he doesn't see it, sometimes he'll go with my read and, it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. I'd say like the Masters, like we're coming down, 15. And if you miss, if you're you could be in the fairway and be totally blocked out by the trees on the left. And, he hits a drive. We're in the lead by 1 at this point in time.
Is this 2018?
What was that?
Was this 2018?
Yes.
Okay.
And, I've seen him hit numerous balls through the trees, like in a gap that's no bigger than a small beach ball. Like he'll see it and he'll be like, see that gap? And I'm like, yeah, you want to hit it through there? And he's like, yep. And I'm like, most of the time, and him and I are both really aggressive in a lot of ways. Like when we won Bethpage, we probably played that place as aggressive as you could get. I still don't know how, like, it's kind of mind boggling. Some of the decisions we made, I'm like, dang, I can't believe we pulled that off. So in this instance though, I was like, yeah, it's a par 5. You don't have to get to I told him, I was like, just go low and chip down there just short of that creek. I go, and you got like a 60-yard pitch or shot right in that green. Like, get it up there and give yourself a look for birdie. And if you don't make it, cool, make par and move on. Like, why we don't need to go up there. Like, all that's happening up there is like, it's bringing bogey into play all day. Whereas down, like where I'm thinking down low, if you just go under the trees and give yourself, like, your third shot, like a small wedge, I go, worst case scenario, that's par, and it's not going to hurt you to make par here. You don't need the birdie to win. And yeah, so he went low, and then he had the little shot into the green. He ended up actually hitting it over the green, short-sided, ball running away from, or green running away from you. Pretty incredible chip to about 6 feet. And he needed that 6-footer for par. So really, like, I mean, we made the right decision, but he definitely made a mess of that part right there. And I was I'm so nervous because, like, I just told him to go down there, and, like, we're scrambling for par right now when it should have been a super stress-free par all day long. So we're scrambling for par, and he's got this 6-footer, and I'm sitting there, and like, they have these little ball markers, these little plastic ball markers that have Masters logo, and I chew on stuff. Like, when I play golf, I chew on a tee all day long. Like, I always have a tee in my mouth. I don't know why. It's a bad habit. So I'm chewing on this thing, and I have veneers. And so all of a sudden I'm chewing, and, like, I'm nervous, like, my heart's racing. I'm trying not to show it. And I feel my tooth shift as he's about to make this. And literally he's like, my tooth shifts as he's pulling this putt back. And I'm like, what the hell was that? And then I start feeling my tongue, and then the putt goes in. I'm sitting here feeling like with my tongue, but also happy that he made the putt. But I'm also like, what the hell is going on over here? And I realized, like, my veneer popped off. Like, I chipped it and it popped off. So luckily I grabbed it. And I put it in my pocket, put the pin in, went to the next hole. So, and I was like, man, maybe I shouldn't chew on these things. So lesson learned. And then we ended up winning the Masters. So long story short, if he went up in the trees, it could have been a bogey all day. And like I said, he went down low, and I said it was a par worst case scenario. And luckily worst case scenario was par. And then, next 3 holes is history.
And what was it like? I mean, it's winning the Masters is such an iconic thing. It's from as a spectator, it is different than any other win. But I mean, from a player and a caddy perspective, I can only imagine it has to be, again, different than any other win. What did it feel like? What did you guys, what did it feel like going into, like, the clubhouse and everything, and him getting the jacket, and how did you celebrate?
I mean, it was all kind of like you didn't believe it was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, exactly. Very surreal. I just, even like a week late, like, I woke up every day the next week thinking, like, we did it. We won the Masters. Like, every morning I woke up, I didn't feel like we won, but we did. Like, I don't know how to explain it in that sense, but you just, it's like you dream about those things. Like, the day one of caddying, you dream about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, that would be, it's like for a football player, the Super Bowl, or a basketball player, like their championship, or just like a swimmer, a gold medal. Like, you just, you put in all the work, you do all the things you can do, and you only get so many opportunities to make it happen. And we did it in our 5th opportunity out there, which is crazy. Like,
right.
If you had told me, this is my 5th year, if you had told me 6 years before that, hey, you're going to caddy in the Masters and you're going to win it, I would have told you, I would have been like, are you drunk right now? Like, like, literally 6 years ago, I was sitting in an office.
Right.
And then 6 years later, I'm taking the flag off 18 green. So I really, like I said, I didn't believe it. Like, it was constantly a dream. I can't watch footage probably to this day of that whole thing. Even though I know what happens, it gives me anxiety. Like, it makes me nervous. Like, my heart's racing. Like, even though I know exactly every shot and everything that's going to happen, I don't like watching it, in the sense of it brings me back to those moments, and, like, my heart's just pounding. So eventually I'll watch it again, but I haven't watched anything of it except for maybe a few highlights here and there.
Yeah.
And then as far as celebrating, like, from the second that flag goes in, they're pulling you every which way. Like,
mm-hmm.
They're like, hey, you got to go to this house, have a couple drinks. You're like, cool, I could do that. And then, and then you go from the Butler cabin, then you go, and mostly I just wanted to get back to the caddy shack and see, like, my peers. Like, those are the people, because for me, like, for many, many years, especially early on, I kind of felt like imposter syndrome. because like the way I came into it was, oh, I'm just lucky. Like I'm his brother-in-law.
Yeah.
I got lucky by just getting the job, but I never felt like, like you want that, you want to earn your stripes.
Right.
Like, I don't care what I'm doing. Like I want my respect, like no matter what I'm doing. And so that was probably officially, even though I'd done many things and like, I mean, Hazeltine, like caddying and that, and like just doing, like I had earned my stripes long before that probably, but that's where me as a person and me as a caddy, that's where I felt like I officially earned my stripes in that moment. And that's where I felt like after that, I didn't feel like I suffered from that imposter syndrome or trying to, be something that maybe I'm not actually, or, those are just the things that go on in my head sometimes. And after that, it was just great. Like, and I finally got back to the like it took me like 45 minutes to get back to the caddy area because of all the stuff that you have to do. And I was so happy that Ricky Fowler's caddy, Joe, he was there. And like they had almost, like they kept us honest. Like Ricky birdies the last to make us to where like we have to shoot even par to keep it from going to a playoff. Luckily we did. But for Joe to be there and like congratulate me, that meant a lot to me. And also, Tiger's caddy Joe LaCava was there, so both Joes were there, and so Joe was there having an adult beverage, hanging out. And so it was cool, like because he's like kind of, the thing was my first couple of years, Tiger kind of wasn't really in the picture too much,
right.
And then you just hear like as a caddy, everyone's telling stories, and like the stories of Joe LaCava are like legendary. He's like a mythical creature for me, like the first 3 years, because everyone's telling me all these stories, like how all these, they're just hilarious, they're great, awesome stuff, and I've never met the guy. And then I finally started meeting the guy, and for him to be there. And then what's funny is like the next year, he's the guy, he's the caddy that ends up winning it. And that was his second one, so he was there. And then of course my buddy, one of my good friends, Mike Collins, was there. And to greet me as well. So really like three people that I really admire and I really like were there to congratulate me. And the fact that they waited basically like almost an hour for me to get back, like that means a lot to you.
Yeah.
And then from there, I hung out with the club caddies. We had a couple drinks, shared war stories, stuff like that. And then probably about I want to say from the time that flag went in, I didn't leave there till about 10:30 at night.
Jeez.
I went back to the house. Saw Patrick for a little bit, and this was like the first time I saw Patrick since like pretty much kind of like seeing him at the Butler cabin. So I saw like we hugged, embraced each other. They take him, I went here, he went there, and then I see him like one time and for like maybe 5 minutes, and then I see him at like 10:30.
That's, I mean, so it's
like
a long time.
Yeah, and then so I told him, cool. I called two of my caddy friends who I knew were still around and that I really wanted to see. I went to a place called T-Bones.
Oh, the best. The best.
Yeah. It's kind of like the local. It turns into like a bar that week. Usually it's like a steakhouse, but that night. And
it's like standing room only.
It was definitely my second worst hangover of my life.
Worth it. So worth it.
Yeah, it was totally worth it. But the next day, I couldn't look at my phone until about 4:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah, I was, when you were saying, like, finding a local place, I was like, oh, it's got to be T-Bones. Like, God love Augusta. Outside of Augusta National and T-Bones, there's not a lot there. We have family down there, and there's not a lot going on. Especially, I mean, when you go down there and it's not tournament time, it's like, I don't understand why I could get somewhere in 10 minutes. I'm used to this taking 45 or more because of all the people during the Masters.
You realize how small of a town it is when you're there and like no one's there. Even like Sunday, the Saturday and Sunday before the whole week starts, like it's kind of, you could tell it's the calm before the storm.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's great. And I'm glad that we're going to end up playing it because you can't just not play there.
So what do you think about November?
We're going to play in November and then we're going to turn around and like 5 months later
I know.
be there again.
And it'll be, I mean, how different do you think that course will play in November versus April?
I don't think it'll play. It's hard to say how different it'll play. I don't think it, like green wise, because they can do whatever they want with those greens. They have the sub air, So they control a lot of factors with how the greens are.
Oh,
they have
okay.
all the resources. I mean, this place has all the resources
Yeah.
in the world, so they can make it pretty much as close as it can possibly be. But the look will be a lot different.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to be like, hey, see those pink azaleas over there? We're aiming right there. It's like,
Right.
no, I don't think those will be there unless, like, they have some crazy plan to, like, put a bunch of azaleas in a greenhouse and trick them into
Right.
thinking that it's March.
Right.
Which wouldn't surprise me. I swear.
It wouldn't surprise me at all.
I'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right. Like, I don't know how much that costs, but
Of any tournament to do
it,
it would be them.
Yeah, exactly. Which would be like, it would be incredible to see that. But if there's anyone who could, it'd be them.
Yes.
But I don't expect that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it'll be really, I think it'll be interesting. I think the tickets, I mean, the tickets are already, like, if you're buying them on the black market or secondhand or however people buy them, when they don't win the lottery, I feel like those tickets will be so much more expensive because this will be, I mean, last year was a big year with Tiger winning. It was, I mean, obviously no one knew. But the fact that he won, that was a really, like, obviously a big deal. But then this year to be having it at a time when realistically, probably never again in our lifetime will we experience Masters in November. I feel like everyone will want a ticket to know what it's like as a spectator.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's going to be nuts. Like, I've been there, and I mean, I don't know how much time you have, but
I'm good. Like, keep going.
I've like, so, you know, I've always been amazed at, like, the Augusta, how it all operates, and these people get tickets, even though, like, they shouldn't have these tickets, but this is how, like, the black market of these tickets is ridiculous. I was eating sushi at a spot, I don't know, but it's kind of a small place, but it's really good. But I'm sitting down by myself, but it's one of those places where, you know, it's so packed that you're kind of sitting in a bench seating, and, you know, you're sitting right next to a total stranger, and they're eating sushi too. So these guys from Australia are sitting to the left of me, and I'm just minding my business. I'm probably listening to a podcast or something, and they're sitting next to me, and they're doing their thing, and I'm doing my thing. And then all of a sudden, some random woman walks up, sits down, opens up like a little briefcase, sits right down in front of them, and goes, okay, here's the deal. And I'm like, what the hell am I about? Is this a drug deal? And, you know, like, what's going on here? And she, like, throws 3, like, tickets out, but these are, like, weekly passes or something. And she goes, okay, so here's 3. They're $1,200 a day. She goes, if we don't have them by 9 o'clock tomorrow, your credit card on file is going to be charged $5,000 per pass. Or, you know, it was like some astronomical amount. And I was like, is this how this works? Like, this is insane. You know, minus, like, the scalpers, but, like, I guess this is, like, the organized crime way of doing it.
But wasn't it like a Texas family that's going to jail for something like that?
I have no idea, but this sounds about right. I mean, this is probably what I witnessed, and I mean, I don't care. They're not going to come after me in Texas.
No, they're not. They're not.
Yeah, check my Instagram. Be my guest. But anyway, so I'm watching this, and I'm just amazed at, like, and then, you know, this is like a 3-minute conversation, and then she gets up and she walks away. And then these 3 Australian guys are sitting there just, like, giddy that they got tickets. And I didn't know they were Australian at the time, but then I talked to them. I was like, hey, man, what just happened there? And they go, we just got tickets, mate. And I was like,
what?
You just paid $1,200 for one day? And they were like, yep. And I go, and you flew all the way from Australia without tickets? And
I can't even imagine.
And I was like, Jesus. I was like, I can't believe it. And then I still talk to those guys to this day. Like, great dudes.
That's
awesome.
So funny.
They want me to go. They keep wanting Patrick to play the Aussie Open, and it's just like, you know, like, timing wise and everything, it just never makes sense. But they're great dudes, and yeah, that was, like, just one of the things I've witnessed, and that was probably, like, in 2016, where I just was baffled by, like, the process of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating to hear, like. My husband's family grew up in Augusta, so hearing and people, because they know that we're into golf, will always want to talk to us about, usually specifically the Masters. But they'll say, like, how much they spent on tickets, and I'm like, you do realize, like, those tickets aren't actually that expensive, right? Like, they're not even close to what you just spent for a day. I'm like, my mind is blown, but it's like, it's an experience for them. I mean, it's such a big deal. And I get that, and I can totally appreciate that and see that. But I'm like, man, that is a lot of money to spend on, especially like you flew over from Australia. You don't have tickets. You might be able to drive by the course if you didn't find this crazy lady with a briefcase.
Yeah, exactly. And one,
what?
how'd you even find it? Like, you're from Australia, so how'd you even get this connection?
Right.
I mean, it's nuts, but that's just one of the things you see, and that's it's amazing about the tournament, but also at the same time, it kind of, this is a day and age where the American family can't go and watch like a football game without having to spend a ridiculous amount of money.
Correct.
Like, for instance, you want nosebleed Texans tickets, you're going to spend $300 a ticket at least.
It's insane.
And that's crazy. Like, this is the world we live in. And I think like everything that's going on right now, I think it's going to be kind of a reality check for a lot of those things, because like the average American family isn't going to go, like, they're looking at this like, wow, I was out of work for 3 or 4 months. Like, sorry, but I'm not going to spend $1,200 for us to go watch the Texans lose to the Patriots today.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, from the nosebleed.
And I mean, we live in Cincinnati, so we're not, unfortunately, very known for our sports. So I don't see people spending money like that up here anymore. I mean, just because it's like, how do you continue to justify some of the costs and how outrageous it's gotten to go to some of the tournaments and some of the things? I mean, you go to the Masters, and once you get in, it's super cheap. I mean, you can drink and eat all day for $20 a person.
For sure.
And it's fantastic.
Yeah, you can go with $30 in your pocket and be
totally fine. But the Ryder Cup, when we went in Minnesota, significantly more expensive. I mean, beers were like $12 and $13. It felt like a baseball game, football game, like NFL, MLB type game. But then Waste Management was more reasonable. So I'm fascinated by like all the different pricing structures within PGA, because it doesn't follow anything else like the NFL or Major League Baseball or anything like that, where it's just like expensive across the board. It really just depends on where you're going and how much you're going to spend on some of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And you would think, like, with the pricing of alcohol being the way it is, that it would keep people from getting totally shit canned.
Oh my God, not at all.
It obviously doesn't work, Like, that's why, so, like, I'm a kind of like a Second Amendment, like, gun advocate, and people are like, well, make ammo more expensive. I was like, yeah, that's not gonna matter. Like, people are still gonna buy ammo. Like, right now, there's tons of people, like, ammo's like a premium. Like, it's ridiculous how much per round it is. And some of my friends are freaking out about, like, I can't believe, and they're all panic buying, and I haven't bought one single round.
That's
because,
so funny.
like, one, I've already have enough as it is, but on top of it, but it's the same thing with like just the alcohol. Like, it doesn't matter what the price is. People are still going to pay for it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then, you get 10,000 people together. I mean, just by percentages alone, there's going to be a lot of stupid people out of 10,000 people out there.
Oh yeah. When we went to, you were caddying for Reed at the Ryder Cup in 2016, right? At Minnesota?
Yeah.
So,
or 2016.
Yeah.
All of them. Every single team event he's made, I've been with him.
Oh, okay, cool. So so we went to that, and I'm trying to think of what hole it was on. 8 maybe, or when we were walking up to 8. And I mean, it is not, like I was saying, it is not cheap to drink at that. Like, you would get this little coin, or at this one you got a coin and you put money on it, and that's like how you use the thing to fill your beer or whatever. This guy was so dropped down drunk, he had passed out, and people had started making a trash pile on top of him. And I'm like, this is like, where are we right now? I'm like looking around like, this is normal. And I mean, he is out. But I'm like, that is, he needed to be hanging out more at Waste Management, I felt like, than the Ryder Cup. But
yeah, when you're there, you'll see people on the side of the past couple times. Like, the last time I was there, I saw a dude, it was like 11 in the morning, and he's passed out on the side of the fairway. Like,
like, what are you doing with your life?
Out. I was like, it's 11 o'clock. Like, how freaking wasted could you be right now, dude? I mean, it's funny. It's funny and also kind of like
it's kind of terrifying.
You're like, how is this even possible? Like,
yeah.
I like having a good time.
Yeah.
I've gone to, like, I go to the Houston Open whenever we're not working it, and I've been to the Valero, and they're great tournaments. And like, I have plenty of beers, you know, but I'm always pretty safe about it. Like, I'm not driving, or I'm staying at, like, for instance, at the Valero. Like, I'll stay at, like, when I've been a spectator there, I've stayed at that hotel and gone and had a great time. But like, that's the only worrisome thing is like, whereas most bars are responsible, like if you get that shit canned at a bar and you hop in a car, that bar is responsible for you. Whereas like a lot of these sporting events, like you can do whatever you want. There's no one keeping track of it either, because there's not one bartender. There's thousands.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can do that, and then you could hop in a car and you could plow through 20 people.
Absolutely.
And guess what? No one's held liable for that. Like, how's that possible? I do not know.
Yeah.
But like other sporting events like baseball, I mean, 7th inning or 6th inning, like last call.
Yep.
So there's only a certain amount of time you can really do some damage there. Whereas like on the PGA Tour and like some of those golf tournaments, you could drink from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Right.
And no one's going to say anything. And you see it. I mean, I've seen guys, and honestly, like, I'm not going to lie. It's been 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning, and I've like walked down the fairway and I've seen a guy with a Bloody Mary, and I'm like, damn, that Bloody Mary looks good. Because when I play golf, like if I play golf and that's like 10:30, I'm starting with a Bloody Mary in the morning, and it's like kind of my go-to right before I start the round, and it's great. But you know, I'm not going to, you know, be drinking and playing golf for 12 hours a day.
That's have you seen, and I mean, obviously you have much bigger fish to fry when you're at Augusta. But on Sundays, have you seen or like noticed at, I think it's 11 o'clock when they start serving alcohol on Sundays, like the exodus of people on the course? It's like the weirdest thing.
Wait, so you're saying 11 o'clock on Sunday?
On
so
Sundays, they don't sell alcohol.
Sunday?
It's either 11 or 12 o'clock on Sunday at Augusta. And so you'll like, literally, you'll be standing there and you'll be surrounded by people, and all of a sudden it will get really quiet and it's really creepy. And you like look around and you can see at any of the concession stands, the lines are super out of control and everyone comes back with like 2 beers. It's the weirdest thing to see. Like, it's like, oh, okay, like everyone's thirsty. Let's go.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I wouldn't be the person that right at 11 o'clock, I'm like, I gotta go get a beer now.
Right.
I hate lines so much that like you waste, like in the airports, like, you know, it's airports, you're sitting in line. Like, I sit in so many lines all the time that if I don't have to sit in one, I'm not sitting in one.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all. That's why the first stop is always the pro shop. Like, get in, like, get there as early as you can, get in the pro shop, get out of it. Because if you wait 2 hours into that tournament, you're waiting for an hour plus just to get into a pro shop. And that's crazy to me. Like, you've literally spent all of this money to get in, and you're missing all of the golf because you're buying all the stuff that says you were there. And
what's crazy is how efficient they are at moving people in and out of it. Yeah. And that's still how long it could take. Like, I mean, it's crazy. I've watched it and just kind of stood around and been like, I can't believe how many people are pumping into there and pumping out. Like, it's awesome. Like, honestly, like, there's a lot of businesses that just need, like, if you're in business and you're trying to get people in and out of a place and get money spent, like, they all need to go there and just sit for like a day.
Agreed.
Like, watch what they do, because whatever they're doing, they're the best at it.
This is how you print money.
Like, Walmart, whatever, whoever it is, y'all all need to go there and check that shit out, because that's amazing.
It is. But it is.
And yeah, that's one thing. So like, all my friends know when I'm going to be there at the same time, and I always get, it's my biggest pet peeve, someone every year, it's a given, is going to text me either Friday night or Saturday night and say, hey, can you go get me a shirt? And I'm like, and that was probably the one time I'll be mean to any of my friends. I'll be like, no, fuck you. You knew I was here all week and you wait till Saturday? No, I'm not going. Do you know what it's like on a Sunday there, dude? No way. I'm not going in there. Like, if you don't get me by Wednesday, it ain't happening.
It's out.
So, like, sorry. Not to be mean, but
no, but it's so true. It's so true. I mean, when we've gone down, it's been like, oh, you're going down. Like, here's my list of all the things I want. And I'm like, oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah.
Like, and you can't call someone and be like, hey, I can't find it. Do you want something else? It's just like, sorry, you're out of luck. They don't have it.
Yeah, and that's even the better part about it is it's not like you can text a picture and be like, is this what you want? It's like, no, like you have to trust the person. Like they have to trust you to kind of know what they like. Because it's not an exact science. Like you don't know what they have or what they don't have. It changes a little bit. I mean, there's always the given. Like there's the Green Masters T-shirt, cool. Green Masters polo, cool.
Right.
But
if you want to keep it basic, I got you. Outside of that, nope. Mm-mm.
Yeah, and I always buy. Like honestly, I always go in there and my staples are I buy a ton of koozies. I buy wine glasses and I buy other stuff. And then that way, and like some of them I give away, like koozies. Everyone loves those koozies. Like I get guys that come to my house and they have a beer and they're like, "Hey, I'm stealing this koozie." I'm like, "You don't have to steal it because I have like 100,
right?
So I don't care." Like,
we get people that get excited over it. We take the plastic cups home, you know, like the reusable cups that all the drinks come in.
Yeah,
people love them, so we'll bring them home. And
of those.
Well, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. You don't need to have a lot of those.
Yeah, I need to go find the guy that's like passed out with like 20 and be like, "Hey, Patrick, let's throw these in the bag."
Right. That's true. I don't. But it's also Augusta. I don't see a lot of patience for someone passing out at Augusta National. I think that will just like literally like disappear into the ground. It's like why there's no birds. Like you just hear the birds, but you don't see birds. There's no trash on the ground. There aren't even leaves on the ground. It's just things just like disappear. There's like a bubble around. Augusta National.
It's the science. Like the science behind all of it is amazing. Like I don't know. Like it's the coolest place. That's why it's so cool. Is because like. If you're at a typical golf tournament, you see golf carts everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like some places are worse than others, but like you're just standing there like, Jesus, how many golf carts are out here today? Because sometimes they're super loud. Some of them are gas, whatever. You never see one golf cart out there.
Right.
Like not one. And then like, there's just all kinds of different things. But I feel like the person that does do that passes out, I feel like they disappear off the face of the earth.
Correct.
Like,
yeah. Like
even,
you're just literally never seen
like,
again.
No, bro, you're not just kicked out for life. Like you're kicked off Earth. Like
yes.
We got a place for you. You know, like that's just the myth behind it. But here's a good question. So if you've been there, it sounds like you've been there a couple of times, and this is like a good like trivia thing. There is a palm tree, and I'm pretty sure there is only one palm tree on the entire course.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what hole that's on?
Oh, I do not. My husband would. He knows the name. Like I'm good at like, I'm the person. So this podcast was started because I liked golf, but wanted to know stories behind people. So he's really into like all the technical aspects of golf. And I'm like, let me tell you the story of so-and-so, random person, random wife, random caddy. And people are like, wait, what? So he would know that. He grew up going there. I'll text him. Hold, please. We're going to get this answer right. I won't Google it. I won't cheat.
I don't even know if it's on Google.
Perfect. Okay. I just texted him. He's downstairs. So we're going to see what his knowledge is like. Oh, and you know what? I'm going to tell him not to Google it. Don't Google it. Perfect. Do you know where it is before I like do all this? And then you're like, oh, I don't know what hole it was.
I know exactly.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Well, so obviously Augusta is my favorite course, if you can't tell. What are some of your favorite courses that are out there and least favorite courses that are out there that y'all go to?
Ooh, the first one's easier. I don't know. Maybe the second one is easier. I love Maui. That's like one of my favorite, even though this year it was like a kick in the teeth every hole because of the wind and the rain. And the course was not the same because they just did some renovations and stuff. But I love I love Kapalua just because one, being there, you're there because you're doing something right. First off, because only previous winners get to go, which is awesome. Like Mexico City, like we just won so recently that I'm like, cool, I'm already going back. Like, I'm already, I got to make my plans. And the sushi's great, whatever. But I love that course. I like it's just, we've played well there and over the years, and I just always like being there. I think like least favorite course, and other caddies might hate me for saying this because it's such an easy walk and it's so flat, but like Sony, like I don't think that course has really anything special to it. It's not one of my favorites, but it's nice being there, but it's not my cup of tea. And then another like favorite course that we played, where the Wells Fargo was, I want to say, I forget what it was called. It might've been like Green Eagle or something, but it was when the Wells Fargo was in Wilmington, instead of Charlotte. And that course was just ridiculously awesome. I can't believe I forgot the name, but I know Harmon won it back then. But yeah, great course. I love that play. Like that, I can't believe I can't remember the name right now.
Are there courses that treat you guys differently or better than others as caddies?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's some, where you definitely feel like where if you're a caddy, you probably feel like a second class citizen, and there's some where you feel like you're top priority. Masters is probably number one in being like the best. It's just hard to beat. And then like a pretty bad one would be like the Greenbrier. Like I haven't been there in a couple of years, but I know the last time it was just kind of like, as far as accommodations go for caddies, like terrible. You can't, like, most of the time they don't want caddies to stay on site. They don't really feed you anything great. I mean, it seems like you're lucky to get a sandwich there.
Jeez.
If you're a caddy. So that one, I would say Greenbrier is probably pretty bottom of the totem pole on how good they have treated caddies over the years. And then, like Wells Fargo is one of the best. And honestly, that's a tournament that I really, really, really want to win, because I think it's one of the only tournaments that the caddy actually gets a trophy to, like an actual.
Oh, that's cool.
Like hardware. Yeah, it's like they have this plate, and it's just so cool. And like my buddy who caddies for Max Homa last year got it, Joe. I mean, which I'm super happy for him for that. Like, it was cool seeing him win that, and it's just like I want that in my office too.
Heck
like
yeah.
I'm jealous of that trophy. So, and anyone who has it. So that's like one of the top, like one of the best ones. And I know I'm like leaving a few out there that I shouldn't, like there are a lot of, like, most of them are really good. It's only a few that are kind of not up to par.
Has it gotten better over the last 7 years? Like, have you seen progress?
Since I started? Absolutely. I mean, it's, most places are really good. And like the Caddy network and the association and the Caddy Association, all that, like, kind of done a really good job of spearheading those things for caddies.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. So there was an answer, I don't know, this was probably 20 minutes ago. But I wrote down a few follow-up questions from it, because you mentioned a couple of things. One was, respect of other caddies. And I want to say, I mean, we obviously are just starting out. You're like the 40th or 41st episode for us, but we've had a handful of caddies on, and you, like, when people talk about who they want to play around with, you've been mentioned a couple times. And Jeff King we recently had on, and he just thinks like you are the bee's knees. But I've got to understand this whole like gardening like thing that y'all have going on.
I mean, I have to say, a lot of people maybe think gardening is like a like kind of feminine thing or whatever. But to me, I think it's like the most masculine thing you can do, is like be able to show that you can grow something, and not only grow something, but you got to do it well. And
that's
like
what he says. He's like, I can't get as good as him, and he won't tell me his secrets. And I'm like, well, I don't know how to get them from him.
No, that's bullshit. He's not giving himself enough credit. That's for sure. Because he's like the pepper, like, yeah. I'm like the tomato cucumber king, and he's the pepper king, and like that's where we got to exchange information. So,
that's awesome.
But like, that's what it all comes down to. But also where he is, like, it's easier to grow peppers, and where I'm at, it seems like tomatoes just thrive. So I also think like maybe the geolocation of where we're growing stuff also works out.
It just naturally happens.
It's all through trial and error, but honestly, I'm jealous of his setup. Like, he's got the PVC pipes, like, watering his garden perfectly, and has a timer and everything.
Oh, goodness.
He sent me his buffalo sauce is ridiculously good. Like, I have like probably a decent amount left, but I'm saving it because I want him to send me more so that I can use. So I'm okay using that. Like, I don't want to use it and then like be pissed off because I got to wait to get some more.
Right.
But yeah, Jeff is great. And I love, like, we always just exchange pictures of, like, I got my stuff growing and I know he's at home doing it right now. I got, like, my herbs, like my mint. I mean, honestly, if you can't grow mint, then you better just give up on gardening. But my mint, like, is always good. And I drink a lot of, like, hot tea in the morning. And so I'm always, like, pulling mint. And then, like, the herbs are all great. Like, those are easy. And those are cool things to have because you actually cook with them all the time, like rosemary and, like cilantro. Like, I just had some tacos tonight. I had some al pastor, which are like my favorite tacos, but you put like a little cilantro. I've grown onions before, but they seem kind of like, just go buy an onion because they take up so much space and they take so long to actually become anything. You're like, forget it.
It's not even worth
like,
it.
Herbs are great. Like basil, like those are things that anyone could do. You could throw that, like you can get a little pot and throw it on your windowsill. You could put a little bit of basil in there, put a little cilantro. And if there's something else, like whatever your choice is, chives, whatever it may be, you throw that in there, they're going to grow great, even inside right there. And you can pick them right there. Like mint, like I said, mint too. Like if you drink tea, I don't know, like, or whatever, you like mojitos, freaking, there you go. You got some mint. So
if you want to go on the alcoholic side or the non-alcoholic side, Kessler's got the hookup for you.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe have your tea, like your mint tea in the morning, and then in the afternoon, make your mojito.
Yeah, I mean, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. We're all losing our minds at home anyway, so you might as well start drinking early.
Yeah, I mean, some of the memes that have come out of this are awesome. It's like, I don't know what to do after this. Or what was it like?
Which do I sign up first? Do I just sign up for Weight Watchers or
AA?
do
you sign up for Weight Watchers or you go to AA? Which one do you go to?
It's so true. I keep seeing friends of mine post like the quarantine 15 versus the freshman 15. I'm like, oh, that's true. It's dangerous.
Oh, that's a really good one right there. I like that one. But yeah, Jeff's awesome, and we just have a lot of fun exchanging pictures of like what we're growing if it's doing good. I'm going to do like some cucumbers and try and pickle them. Go with that. Maybe I'll send him some pickles since that ship's easy.
He'll be thrilled. He will be thrilled.
In exchange for buffalo sauce.
Right. I send all the buffalo sauce to Kessler.
Finest batch of barbecue buffalo sauce. That's what I want.
Well, the other thing that you talked about was Joe LaCava being there when Reed won the Masters. Was it, and when you really started like kind of growing up on the PGA Tour, Tiger was not as present. What was it like having Joe and Tiger around and obviously very present this year or last year, December, at the President's Cup?
It was awesome. I mean,
is it surreal seeing a player like that?
What was that? Sorry.
Is it surreal seeing a player like that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like a playing captain, like that's so cool to be a part of a team where you got to be a part of a team that has a playing captain and then also wins. And that playing captain so happens to be Tiger Woods.
Yeah, right. That was crazy.
Realistically, to me, like right now, the two guys that could pull off being a playing captain would have been Phil or Tiger. Mm-hmm. So, and it is really cool. And he played it perfectly. I mean, even when things weren't looking good, he had his game plan. He stuck to his game plan. He held his composure and he played great.
Yeah.
And him sitting out all Saturday, like that's just that's a awesome captain move for him to be like, hey, this is where I'm going to lean on my team and they need to go out there and they need to show and they need to like get work done, get it done.
Yeah.
So, And they did. Everyone came together, and everyone played a part at some point in time, and obviously with the hard start that we had, guys didn't do what they needed to do early. And honestly, I don't know that. I don't think that has anything to do. Like, I know what's funny is how, you kind of watch the media and they want to kind of roast the guy as a captain, like, because early on, because of how big of a lead the international team took on us. But then by the end of it, they're just nothing but singing his praises. And that's my problem with some of the media. It's like, didn't you just 2 days ago, like, criticize the hell out of this guy and his captaining skills?
There was no way Tiger was going to win, and Ernie's got it in the bag, and these are all the reasons that the international team is going to win. And then by the end, I mean, we were glued to our TVs. I mean, we were setting alarms. We were staying up way too late to watch everything in Australia. But by the end, I mean, the media had shifted so much to where it was like, well, we knew Tiger would pull it out, and we knew the USA could do this. And it was like, really? Do you want to rewind to 2 days ago? Exactly.
Watching their first reactions, it's like you would think that they're depicting him as like, a total goof and just terrible captain. That's how it seemed like. They just totally flipped the script, and I'm like, well, like, what kind of, like, as far as media goes, like, why didn't you just kind of let it play out and say, he could have done, like, at the time, I get it. You have to say something, and that's their problem, is that they have to talk about something.
Right.
And they need something to talk about. And right then it's like, let's rain shit on this person because that's what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
But no one's saying, give them a minute, give them a chance. Yeah. Like, let's see how this plays out. Because at the end of the day, it's like, some guy shoots 9 under on Thursday. How many times have we seen a guy shoot 9 under on Thursday and then end up outside the top 10 by Sunday?
Yes.
It happens all the time.
Absolutely.
How many times, and how many times has a player been like outside the cut on Thursday and come back and won? Does it happen often? Not often, but it does.
But it happens enough.
I know. Yeah. I remember Tampa. As far as great courses, Tampa, Innisbrook, that area, like that course, it's one of the, like, the what is it, Valspar. It's one of, like, probably the best ran tournaments. It's great. Like, they're great to it's great to the caddies. And I know I'm getting off subject on that.
You're fine.
But, like, that's probably one of my favorite, and I think it's one of the most underrated courses out there. It's one of my favorite courses to play, and Patrick's almost won the thing like twice. But the first time we got in a playoff in 2015 with Jordan, Patrick, like, we started out, like, I think after day one, we were like T52.
Jeez.
And by the end of Sunday, we're waiting on basically a playoff.
I mean, it flips, so, and that's the whole game of golf. It flips so quickly. I mean, the people that everyone's like falling in love with on Thursday, I'm like, don't get too attached. Like, the chance of wire to wires are not high.
With Tiger being the captain of that, like, Thursday, like, that's those first rounds and those first points on the board, like, it didn't look great and it's not the start you want, but, like, you can never sleep on that guy. Like,
agreed.
This isn't a sprint. This is a marathon. And and if there's any captain that could come back for something like that, especially even after like day 2, it would have been him all day long. So, and as far as with, everything that like, I was glued to my TV on Sunday too.
Yeah.
Like everyone else. I was sitting there. I was in my hotel and I was screaming, jumping up because I couldn't go on the course. I couldn't be anywhere near the course, and that's fine. It all played out the way it's supposed to. I'm a big believer, like, just like how Patrick shot 63, 63, 63, and I was meant to be in that spot right next to him so that he would go with his instincts. I was meant to do what I did, and Patrick was fired up, and I told all my friends, I said, Sunday, I go, hey, if you're a betting man, bet the house, because I don't care who he ends up against, they're going down.
Yeah. And
sure enough, he was like 6 up through 7 holes. I mean, and he had that fire that we all wanted to see.
Yeah.
I was super proud of him.
Did his swing coach caddy for him then? Who caddied for? Okay. I was like, I knew there was, obviously I knew there was a change, but I couldn't remember if that's who stepped in. Do you guys have like kind of a, I don't want to say an entourage, but that's kind of what it feels like. But like a group of people that consistently travel with you to the tournaments too, besides the two of you?
Well, swing coach, there's a swing coach for sure.
Okay.
His manager, Philip Costa, he'll come out every now and then depending on what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, Kirky's, it's me, Patrick, and Kevin Kirk most of the time. And it's good to know that he can definitely fill the shoes of,
Mm-hmm.
of the caddy role if anything were to ever happen, like I get sick or who knows.
I mean, that happens frequently where someone has to step in because of something super unexpected, a illness in the family, or I don't know, like when I was talking to Michelle Tesori, like Paul was there when their son was born, like someone else has to step in. Like those are times where you can't always have like what you're used to, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just got to do the best you can with, those situations. And
Mm-hmm.
you never know. Like sometimes it's good to hear someone else.
Yeah.
Have someone else in your ear, as a player. And that, that's just kind of how it goes. And, like I said, it was kind of cool for me. Like I'm happy, everything happened for a reason. And it was pretty cool for me to be able to watch it like everyone else does. Cause I've been a part of those teams and I've been in all those situations and I've been, and I've been out there when it happens. And that was probably the hardest thing for me, is to sit there and watch like the whole team embracing, as they're walking down the fairways, like, got it in the bag, whatever, and having a great time. And like, I know what it's like to be there and I can't be
Mm-hmm.
there. And like that, it was torture, but I was also super happy, like I was celebrating myself and I knew I was going to see them, and I greeted them all off the bus and we hugged, and it was, it was a great moment. It might've been the hardest team event I've ever been a part of for me as a caddy, but it'll probably be, maybe Hazeltine's hard to top, but it'll probably be one of the most memorable
Mm-hmm.
team events I could ever be a part of. I can't imagine anything else. Like it was spectacular. Definitely my favorite President's Cup.
Yeah. I mean, just as a spectator, it was so incredible to watch, especially once you got kind of through the heart attacks of Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
But watching Saturday, well, I guess it was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday here, because it was a Saturday night that it ended here, but it was Sunday in Australia. But just like the suspense of it all at the beginning, and then just watching the team come together, and then the team celebrations were just absolutely incredible.
Yeah. I have a lot of pictures from greeting everyone off the bus. I've been meaning to post them, but I just haven't had the time to really dedicate to like what I need to say about that post.
Yeah.
So it's not something that like, I mean, I have a lot of just post and dump, like whatever. I just need to post, like, I just want to show this. And I really wasn't big on social media for a while. And my girlfriend pretty much got me into it. And then,
thanks,
even
Keith.
then,
We
I
appreciate
just
it.
posting a lot of stuff. But then like my friends were like, dude, this is awesome. Like you need to do this more. And so then, I'm like, I'm just posting things just to, show like, oh, this is pretty cool, whatever. And some people love it. Like people, like for instance, that I don't know if you saw my story the other day, but I was just doing pressure washing yesterday.
Okay.
And I got this,
yes.
like, cool attachment.
You do have a cool attachment.
Like 20 messages. I got a list. I got a queue of like 10 dudes that are like, I need to borrow this thing like tomorrow. I'm like, I've never seen someone so
it looked like
excited to
magic.
pressure wash before.
It did. It looks like magic.
Awesome. Yeah, it does, because it literally makes you like, if you pressure wash, like if you've ever pressure washed a driveway and you didn't have that thing, it's like it's not fun. It takes 4 hours if you want to do it right, and it's hard to keep it even because like you got to, the way you do it, and it hurts your wrist. It's ridiculous. Like I said, it's a 4-hour deal for an average driveway, maybe 3 if you're stupid fast. That thing I literally from start to like prep and everything, 45 minutes I was done. Full driveway, walkway, everything, like super easy. Like if you buy a pressure washer and you don't buy that attachment,
like you're doing it wrong. Well, you made me feel really exceptionally lazy because you're pressure washing a driveway and Keith's in the background, like killing it on like a Peloton or a bike or something. And I'm like, let me just sit here and pretend like I'm doing all of these productive things right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm definitely ADD because like I wake up and like I wake up and I go. I don't like sit around. I don't do much. Like I may not even eat breakfast some days. Like I'm just like I got stuff to do and I'm gonna go do it. And like I'm an active person. I just go. Like my Whoop has gone nuts. Like do you know what a Whoop is?
Oh my gosh, so
it's awesome. I do like it mostly for the sleep, but like the max you can do is 20. Like your strain is like 20 or 21. I've been at 19.8 at the end of the day every day for like 2 weeks straight, just because I'm constantly moving. And so like this thing must be like what's like it probably has no idea what's going on.
Yeah, we've been talking about getting them, but I'm 8 months pregnant right now and I don't sleep. So I'm like, I don't want to know how little my recovery is right now or how little I'm doing in my days. But I'm like, man, once this baby's here, like it's on, because I assume at some point I will sleep again in my life, because my nickname at my old job was Amy Never Needs a Latte, because like I wake up and I'm like, let's go, like ready to go. And I have not been that in like 7 months. I'm like, give me caffeine.
On the
Thank
baby.
you.
Is it a boy or girl?
It's a boy.
Okay.
It is
Congrats.
a boy.
Awesome.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It is the year of the boy. Like all my friends that got pregnant, it wasn't last year, but the year before, they were all having girls. And then every single one of my friends that got pregnant this year, all boys.
Yeah, we have we have a lot of friends that are all expecting boys, or they are being surprised. And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure we're just going to have a lot of boys in this class here.
Go buy some blue.
Yes.
Blue.
I know. Rich is so sad because he was like, oh, when we go to Augusta, like I'll buy a onesie and he can come home in that. And I'm like, that won't be happening this year. And we didn't buy one last year because we weren't expecting. So we didn't think anything of it. So I'm like, we'll get plenty of golf gear. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
It will all show up.
Like a toddler little T-shirt or something.
Yes.
Whatever next year.
Exactly.
I don't know what they have. I bought a couple things for some of my friends' kids before, and that's
expensive as the adult stuff.
I love the shopping too there. So.
So you talk about so much about like golf and how it's impacted your life, and obviously the changes going from medical sales to this. You and Reed are obviously very well known. Whether people love you or hate you, very well known. Do you have trouble like just going out? Like, do people recognize you?
Not really. It's pretty good. And plus, like, most of the people, like, there's a lot of golf people in the Woodlands. And so everyone's always pretty nice. Like, I mean, after President's Cup, I had a couple random people be like, you look familiar. And I'm like, shit.
You're like, no, I don't. I just have that face.
This is not what I wanted to be known for. Thank you. And then there's been times where like someone will say something and I'll be like, wait, do you recognize me now? And I'll lay on the ground, act like I'm reading a putt just to mess with them. And they're like, nope. I'm like, oh, okay, you don't know me.
Yeah, you have no idea.
I don't know. I have fun with it sometimes. But for the most part, like, honestly, if people have recognized me, I usually tell them, like, you watch way too much golf if you know who I am. Like, I'm in the background. Like, but yeah, there's people at my grocery store that's like, you're Patrick Reed's caddy. I'm like, yeah, that's me.
I also have a name.
And everyone's always pretty nice. I'm always worried, that someone's gonna like say something, like try and be mean to me.
Yeah.
And luckily that's never happened. But
when you think about it, people are only like morons and really mean on social media because they don't have to look at a person, or they can yell on a golf course because, like, if there's 100 people standing there, there's a decent chance you might not actually know who said it unless everyone like turns around and points to them.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's no repercussion, and that's the thing. Like, there's just so many people out there that 9 times out of 10, like, and they just want a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny part is, like, some of the people that say like terrible things, like, but if Patrick walked up and said, "Hey, how's it going, dude?" they'd flip the script in a heartbeat, and they'd be like, "Man, he's the best."
Absolutely.
I've seen it. Like, I've literally been I've been eating dinner at a bar one time, and I'm just hanging out there minding my business. But naturally, like, if you eat at a bar and you're elbow to elbow with people,
mm-hmm.
I usually am like listening to a podcast in my ear. Like I don't want to talk to anybody.
funny.
It's kind of like me time. But eventually you're going to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And then so that somebody, especially during a golf week, is probably a golf fan.
Mm-hmm.
And they start talking to you and like you don't really want to, I don't really care to talk to them about what I'm doing or who I am or what I do. But eventually like they start asking, or someone might actually recognize you, you know, or whatever. They're like, hey, I saw you at the golf course. Were you at the golf course? I'm like, yeah, I caddy. And they're like, oh, okay. And then you don't tell them who you caddy for, but I've had someone say something. I'm like, oh, I caddy for Patrick Reed. And they go, oh man, I'm a total Patrick Reed fan now. Like, just because like I just talked to him for 20 minutes while having a beer or whatever. So, but
I think
yeah,
it just brings the,
goes,
I think it brings humanity into the people where realistically, just like we were talking about before, the media is there for ratings. So you see a lot of bad press or over the top good press on people. And then like you never hear about them again. And you're like, oh, did they like stop playing? And you're like, no, they didn't stop playing. They just didn't win the next tournament. So they're on to the next person.
Yeah. And that's the problem with all the mainstream, like honestly, I mean, and you obviously get it because you're doing the podcast and you're doing these, and this is the way people are going to eventually consume most of their media. That's why the guys at Barstool, that's why the guys at No Laying Up, that's why like they're more popular than Golf Channel probably could ever be, just because they're actual fans too, and they're not afraid to show that they're fans of golf.
Right.
Whereas some of them, and that's why like Mike Collins at ESPN is so popular. Like I've gone out with him and it's crazy. Like you want to talk about not being able to go somewhere, like that guy. I've walked
super recognizable. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I don't think there's not one time where, and people love the guy.
Yeah.
And you know why? Because he's genuine. Whereas like, to me, like a lot of the mainstream media stuff, they're kind of like a dying breed and they know it. Like they don't have enough to talk about. They have rules of how and what they can talk about. And they just can't be as genuine, and they're good people. Like I know a lot of people at Golf Channel and I love them and like I like hanging out with them, but it's hard. They have so many like kind of boundaries and rules and things that they have to abide by, that it also hurts them in the fact of like kind of just being genuine in a lot of situations when they have to interview these guys or talk to them. Whereas that's where ESPN has done a great job with Mike Collins and just like, dude, be you. Like
absolutely.
You were a caddy. Everyone knows you were a caddy and you're a great dude. You're also a fan, but also you're a great journalist and you ask like the right questions when the questions need to be asked.
Absolutely.
And he doesn't
amazing.
Try and play anything out that it shouldn't be played out the way it is. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So last question I have for you before we wrap up with a quick 9 is, what is your favorite part about caddying and this life you have chosen to live over the past 7 years?
That's tough, but yeah, I mean, honestly, the travel is bittersweet. It's like, it's ridiculously tough, but it's also one of the coolest things ever. Like I've seen so many parts of the world that most people never get. Like some people never leave their own state that they were born in. Right. And like I've literally, I need a map to mark all the places that I've ever gone. But obviously, like before I pin up that map and like put all the pins on, I need to travel to the top 2 corners of the map so I can put the map up. Do you know what that is? That's a Mitch Hedberg quote, by the way. No. Yeah, look him up. He's got a bunch of one-liners. He died. He was a really good comedian, but like he just has some funny stuff. But like I always think about that because of how many places I've been. And that was one of his jokes. But yeah, like there's just so many like I swam when we played in Saudi, I swam in what is it, the Red Sea over there?
Yes, I remember seeing that. Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I've swam in a lot of oceans over the years and I've never seen anything like that. Yeah. And there's not too many people that swam like in that area that I swam. Yeah. But they kind of control who goes in there. So it's like, there's things like that I would never have been able to do. And I never would have done if, Patrick Reed didn't walk into my life. Yeah.
So those are the times
or think of me as like, his
think of you for the caddy.
Honestly,
yeah.
Like, let's face facts. Be like, most people probably were like, oh, he's bringing his brother-in-law. Did he play in college? No. Is he any good? No. What did he do? He was a medical device salesman. We'll figure it out. Like, let's face facts. Like, I had a lot of things working against me coming into this game, but, I kind of stuck to my guns and been the person that I know I am, and it's obviously worked out pretty well for me. And,
absolutely.
It's definitely been the best job I've ever had, and I probably ever will have.
Well, that is it. It has been so wonderful to get to know you. I had heard so many great things, obviously, from other caddies and from Candace when she was on. She spoke so highly of your family. So I really appreciate you taking some time to chat with me, because I think the biggest goal for us with this podcast is to just bring the great stories and the humanity of the people behind the players. Because that's what I fell in love with the game. I mean, I will sit at a tournament or watch a tournament and be talking to friends, and I will tell stories about like the people, and it draws new fans in because they don't have access to this stuff. You know what I mean? So I'm very appreciative that you were willing to chat with me.
And that kind of reminds me of like my other favorite thing about the job. Like I said, the traveling is great and seeing all these different courses and all those things, but also the people and the friends that I've made that I would have never met. I have friends in Australia. I have a friend in New Zealand. I have friends in the UK. I have friends in Saudi. I have friends all over the country. And like when you see and I love people. Like I worked sales forever, and I think I was good at sales because I just naturally love people, and I love all my friends, and I'm just a very I'm social butterfly type. Sometimes I'm probably too social. Like, hey, remember we're working, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I'll talk to you later, bird dog. And I love, I got my buddies, and that's the thing. I've just met so many cool people, and so many people that like Jeff King, that I never would have met before.
Right.
It's great.
Well, actually, I have one other follow-up, I guess, to that. If and whenever this comes back, do you guys have based on the tournaments that are currently scheduled, do you have a tournament that you know you're planning on going to as long as it still happens? What would be your next tournament?
As of right now, I don't think they've unannounced Colonial, but that would be the first one, obviously, if it happens. I don't see anything. Dallas is closed down till they have till May 20th. So,
okay.
And that tournament's the day later. So I don't see how even though it's Fort Worth, I don't see how that opens up. But I'll tell you this, knowing Patrick, I mean, he's going nuts, right? He's never had to take this much time.
No.
And he's still grinding. I know he's grinding away, just trying to get better, and always just he wants to come out and spit and fire when we come back out, which is great. And I love that. And, but I'll tell you this much. It doesn't matter what the first tournament, whatever the first tournament back is, we're going to be there. And I assume, honestly, if there's ever after the 9-week run we had, we were we will never do this again.
You'll be doing it again.
But guess what? If there's a time to do it, if there's a time to do a 9-week run, that would be the time.
Yeah.
And guess what? I'm totally down for that. If he wants to go 9, let's go 9, buddy. Because honestly, I know I'm really enjoying being home right now, and being with my family and having this time. But I know by the end of this, I'm gonna be let's freaking go, man. Let's full send. I don't care. Let's play the rest of the season if you want to play the rest of the season.
Right.
I don't care.
Keith's gonna be don't you have somewhere to be? Why are you home again?
Yeah, she'll pick the right ones to go to.
It won't be the first couple. I have a feeling.
Gus can fly and do all that stuff. So
that's awesome. That's good.
He's great. He's like a how some kids are great at home and then they're monsters in stores and things like that. Yeah, he's opposite. He's a monster at home and he's nothing but a gentleman in the airport and all those things.
Oh, that's so funny.
Super nice. We'll go out to eat, and if we eat on a patio, he sits, there's 3 seats or 4 seats, he sits in one of those seats and just sits there, and people are they're amazed that there's a dog sitting in a chair at the table. If we had a bowl of food, we put a bowl of food, and he would eat dinner with us while we're eating our dinner. He's gonna have his dinner like a baby, and he's totally and he's as chill as can be. Or he'll just sit there and look at us and hope that we throw him a scrap or two, one or the other. But If we do go 9 weeks in a row, she's going to make it out to at least, 2 or 3 of those.
That'll be fun. We're very excited to see you guys come back. We appreciate the why we all need to stay at home and shelter in place and do all of those things. And we're hoping that everyone stays as healthy as they can be. Again, Kessler, this has been awesome. Super appreciate it. I'd love to play a quick 9 with you if you're ready.
A quick 9? Oh, you're going to shoot off like 9 questions?
Yep.
Perfect. I love it. Let's do this.
What's your most memorable win?
Masters.
Funniest caddy on tour?
Austin Johnson all day long.
Favorite on-course snack?
Ooh,
Coke.
I do love a good Coca-Cola, but that's not a snack.
Peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, those Crustables or whatever, the Uncrustables?
The Uncrustables, yep.
Yeah, those are money.
They ran out of those at Phoenix after the first day. It was devastating.
Yeah, but if I can't, I'll tell you what, actually, that's number 2, because I will say Jeff King's beef jerky.
I was waiting for
around,
it. I was going to text him and be like,
if it's around, it's getting snagged up real quick. Like, that's, I don't want to be a glutton or anything, but if I see a couple of those bags, I'm like, I'm taking a bag for the round and I'm taking a bag for later.
I was going to say, Jeff's going to hear this and be really upset if you didn't call this stuff out.
No, I didn't even think about that until, because I would say beef jerky is like number 1 and it's healthy. Like those Crustables aren't that great for you, but not that I give a shit. I'll eat whatever.
But they're great.
But they are, they're delicious too. So,
what's your favorite tournament of the year to caddy?
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to take Masters away from it because that's just like kind of an easy answer. I'm definitely going to say Maui, Kapalua.
Maui. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Night owl.
You're getting called out. I love this.
I stay up late. This is an A and B conversation. See your ass out of it. I like staying up late. I watch a lot of TV late.
Who would you put together for a foursome? Like who's your ideal foursome? And because I know you said you don't golf as much, like if you want to caddy for them instead of playing in it, I'll take that answer too.
So you're saying I don't have to play in it? Correct. But I could choose 4?
Yes.
Man, see, I would want like a really good match. So I would put I'd put me and Patrick versus I don't know, maybe Tiger and Joe LaCava.
Oh, all right.
I want a team match. That's what I would want. And I don't know, I haven't seen Joe swing a golf club, but I think that would be a lot of fun. So that'd probably be what I go with, if I was playing in it.
Let's do it. We need to call them out on this. We need to make this happen. What can't you live without in golf?
What I can't live without in golf?
Mm-hmm.
On the course or just in my general life?
Just
of traveling and doing
whatever it is. I've gotten the most random answers on this, so it's really fascinating to know where people's heads go when I ask this question.
Sunscreen.
Oh, so that has been an answer before. I was going to give that as an example because that was an answer that I was like,
I would say it gets pretty sunny out there, and skin cancer is definitely probably in my future at some point.
It's definitely a thing. So we're going to cause some controversy within the family with this question, okay? Who's the better caddy, you or Justine?
I was going to say, yeah. I would go, I do have a lot of wins, but I don't know. That is a tough one.
You better not.
I don't know.
We're just gonna pass on that one.
You know what? I was watching the Mark Twain. I'm gonna plead the fifth. FIF fifth.
All right, and last one. Drink of choice.
Blanton's bourbon on the rocks.
Do you throw some mint in there, or is it just Blanton's on the rocks?
Just Blant. I have thrown some mint, but honestly, just Blanton's on ice is fantastic.
Perfect. I love it. Well, Kessler, again, this has been awesome. Where do we follow you and continue this conversation online?
My Instagram is basically my name, Kessler Karain. And yeah, and then obviously I'm on Facebook, but that's about it. That's all my social media.
Perfect. Love it. We'll make sure to tag that so that everyone can follow along. And Kessler, we're super excited to see you and Reed back out on the course as soon as the whole world opens up again.
Yeah, thank you very much. And this
Absolutely.
was really fun. I mean, before you know it, we talked for about an hour and 40 minutes.
I know. I was
Didn't
like,
expect that.
hope he didn't have anywhere to be.
No one's got anything better to do. So.
Hey, see, Keith, maybe he actually is a night owl. Who knew?
Yeah, see, that's 43. We'll be up for,
As soon as he goes up and he puts his head on the pillow, he's out.
I'm efficient. Once I'm done, I'm done.
Well, we appreciate it, guys, and we will talk to you soon.
All right, take it easy.
Bye. Thanks for joining me today. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a minute of the action. See you soon.